Again, ladies and gentlemen, as soon as you are done answering this essential question. Oh, well, you guys keep on taking pencils. Please return this to me. Again, ladies and gentlemen, as soon as you are done answering this question, please raise your hand so that I can check your work. Again, ladies and gentlemen, as soon as you are done, raise your hand so that I know you're done, then I'll come by and I will review your answer. Again, ladies and gentlemen, make sure we keep our voices at 0. We're being respectful of those who are still working on this assignment. Again, ladies and gentlemen, as soon as you are done, if you could please raise your hand, I'll come by and I will check your answer. I'll be right there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, finish up your answers, please. Finish up your answers. I'll give you you another couple of seconds, and I'm going to talk about the reminders. Okay, 80% state test scores, again, are in Skyward. With all 80% assignments in this class, you have 10 days to retake the 80% test. I'm not going to count spring break. That wouldn't be fair. March 23rd. You have till March 23rd to take this test. You must take this test in the classroom since it is a state assessment and an 80% assignment. If you are interested in retaking the 80% assignment after doing your grade, please come see me and we will create a plan and a schedule for you to complete that, if you're interested in doing so. The 20% notes and the journal entry that we did last Friday related to the documentary, again, those are due on Friday, page 32. Your vocabulary words go take to page 33. Your vocabulary words go take to page 33. Yesterday I required that if you had not yet completed those vocab words, that you would then come in at lunchtime. But it is up to you, and it's your responsibility from here on out to complete those vocabulary words. They are due on Friday. If you want to come and work on them at lunchtime because you have not completed them yet, come see me after class. Again, if you need to finish the vocabulary word, 80% assignment, goodness, 20% assignment, if you have not done so yet, please come to me after class, and I'll allow you to come in at lunchtime and you can work on them then. So that's going to be up to you. Some of your peers were kind enough to spend time, and they wrote down some ideas for things that we could do to improve our mental health and different exercises. I won't name names, but thank you very much to those individuals who helped create that list. I really appreciate it. I read through that list, read through a couple times. It was very good. It was very useful. We'll definitely be able to use a couple of the things that were suggested. Meditation. That is going to start today. It's just going to be for 1 minute. We're not going to go, we're not going to do things like that. But I'm going to walk you guys through it, okay? It's just going to be for 60 seconds. We're going to try this, okay? We're going to see how it works. Now, obviously, a requirement is that our voices be at a level 0. That's a necessity. Now, what are we trying to do right now? So if you've ever been listening to, did you have something you wanted to add? If you've ever been watching a movie, or you've been listening to a podcast, or playing a video game, or watching a sporting event, you know how your mind just trails off, and you start having conversations with yourself? You start rehashing a conversation you had with somebody else earlier that day, and you're like, I would have had this come back if I would have thought of it then. You just constantly are doing that. You constantly are thinking of different things. So what we're going to try to do now is just to slow that down. We're going to try to concentrate on one thing. And that one thing we're going to concentrate on is our breath. We're going to concentrate breathing in and breathing out slowly. And if our mind starts to wander, I don't want you to grab those thoughts and to shove them back in line for it. Think about the breathing. Just think about gently guiding them back to thinking about breathing in and breathing out. Now, I know I mentioned a couple of days ago, but mental health has been proven to reduce anxiety, to reduce depression, as well as improve overall physical and mental health. So I'm going to turn the lights off. We're going to make sure not to go to sleep, please. I just want everybody's voices at 0. Everybody stop what you're doing. Just put your hands on the table in front of you, palms down, or in your lap. You don't have to close your eyes if you don't want to. That's just up to you. But just make sure your body is resting, that it's very still. So I'm going to walk you through it. Make sure your body is resting. And those thoughts that are running through your mind, just start gently guiding them toward thinking about breathing in and breathing out. And if that thought starts to stray away again, gently guide it back to the action of you breathing in and breathing out. Just concentrate on breathing in and breathing out. And if your mind starts to wander again, I just want you to gently take it and just re-guide it back to that breath. Just breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. As those thoughts come, which I know they will, you're just going to gently guide them. Guide them back from the right or from the left. You're going to guide them back to thinking about your breath. Breathing in and breathing out. And that was it. That's our first trial run, ladies and gentlemen. We'll try this for a week or two and see how it works. And I think we'll wait a couple weeks for me to ask you how you feel about it, because it's an experiment that we're running, right? We'll run it for a while to see if there's some benefit or if there's not any benefit at all. Run it for a little while. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to pull out those guided notes we were using yesterday. The ones we were using for that video about abolition. We're going to pull those out. I want everybody to have those out in front of them, please. Give you guys a couple seconds. Grab those notes that we were using. Grab those notes that we were using yesterday, Deb. Grab those notes that we were using yesterday during the video. We're going to watch our second video, and it's going to finish off the rest of the questions that we have. But what we're going to do is we're going to review Everybody should have that out in front of you, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody should have those notes out in front of you. I can see them. Everybody should have those notes out. I should see those notes out in front of you. That should be the only thing that we have out in front of us. That should be the only thing that we have out in front of us. Okay. I want to hear from you guys now. What did we get for question 1? What was the response from question 1? Let me see some hands. What do you got, man? 1807. When did Congress ban the importation of enslaved peoples? 1807. Why was that important? Why did they ban the importation of enslaved peoples? What did they thought it would do to the institution of slavery if they banned it?
They thought it would end.
They thought it was going to go away. Exactly. Now, what came along? What came along and caused the institution of slavery to grow again? What thing came along? What invention came along that we've talked about and caused the institution of slavery? Yes, Michelle. The cotton gin. And what did the cotton gin do, Kylie?
The cotton gin made cotton production 10 times faster.
Thank you, Kylie. You have a very, Kylie, you changed your hair. I don't know if I like it. That's okay. Thank you, Patrick. I appreciate it. All right, so the cotton gin, yes, it made the production of cotton much faster. And that caused cotton to be worth a lot more money. And it caused the institution of slavery to grow because those who worked primarily in the cotton industry were enslaved peoples, exactly. What two things, well, we actually, now we'll just, question 2. What were the 2 obstacles abolitionists faced? What were they? Kylie.
Destabilize the balance between the North and the South.
What was that?
Destabilize the balance between the North and South.
It was destabilizing the boundaries or relationships between the North and the South. Why? What was a big thing? The big thing we talked about that was causing it to destabilize that relationship. We were expanding what way? The United States of America was expanding west. And what did northern states think? They said that there should be no slaves in the new states we were forming in this new territory. And what did southern slaves think, George?
They thought there should be slaves in the state.
They thought that there should be slaves in those states. What happened on the Senate floor? Who remembers what happened on the Senate floor? Mia.
Someone with a cane, right?
Someone with a cane. Some dude with a cane beat the crap out of some other guy who was saying we should abolish slavery. The guy just came out with his cane and whacked him. Nearly beat him to death. We only got to one thing, which is okay. What is the one thing we talked about that really helped abolitionists after 1840? What was that one thing? Who have I not heard from? Brooklyn.
I can't spell to save my life and I can't even read.
Cabin, exactly. It was a book. It was a book written by Harriet Beecher Stowe called Uncle Tom's Cabin. What did this book talk about? Yes, Matt.
What happened to some people?
What? That's exactly right. What actually happened to them? Because we talked about if you're living in Texas and then you're living in Maine, and somebody tells you that slavery is not so bad in Texas, and you're living in Maine, what do you do? How do you find out?
You're not going all the way to Texas.
You're not going all the way to Texas. I live in Maine. I got lobsters, or however they say that. I'm not going all the way to Texas. That's crazy. All of a sudden, somebody writes a book and says, hey, all this stuff people are feeding you in the newspapers, these lies people are telling you, it's not true. This is what's actually happening. And they took that and they circulated across the entire United States. Across the entire United States. They caused the abolitionist movement to grow. So today we're going to talk about something related to the abolitionist movement. And it's called the Underground Railroad. Who knows what that is? Who have I not heard from? Someone at this table. Michelle.
I'm not sure.
No, I am sorry. My goodness. We'll say that that's 30. 30. We'll say that's 30. That's fair.
Because the Thomas always calls it winner.
Yeah, well, neither of us are right.
It was a way to get the slaves out of South.
It was a way that enslaved people were able to escape from the South, usually the deep South, into the North. We're going to learn about that a little bit more with this video that we're going to watch, and we're going to do it in a similar way as we did yesterday, but I'm going to add one thing. When we stop the video like we did yesterday, and you're going to have a question on your paper, and you're going to have the same question looking at you on the screen. We're going to stop that. You guys are going to have about 30 seconds to talk amongst your table. You're going to see if you can figure out what that is. Now, what is a tool that we have learned to use when looking for information to answer a question? Yes, Tyler. Yes, what is the tool we've learned? Well, no, yes, we use Google, but when we have a question and we're trying to find the answer in a book or in a movie, what do we do? What's a tool? So we read it, right? So what we do is if we have a question and we have to find the answer in a book or in a journal or in an article or in a movie, we read the question first because the question acts as a compass. Because there's a lot of information swirling around in that video or in that book or in that article. And what that question does is just limit your focus so you can concentrate on what information directly answers your question. And so we're going to be very, very deliberate in terms of every single time we stop the video and start it up again, we're going to read the question, and that's the information we're looking for. Just that information. You can listen to what the gentleman will be saying in the video, but what we are looking for is the information to answer those questions. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, I should see, again, everybody's notes out in front of you. So my expectations for why we're watching this video, number one, we all read the question out loud, and we're looking for the answers. So, could I have a volunteer read, I think it's question 4. Okay, read question 4 for us.
What was the Underground Railroad?
Pretty easy question, right? What was the Underground Railroad? So what are we looking for the person doing the video? He's going to describe to us what? George?
What the Underground Railroad is?
What it was. That's exactly the information we're looking for, okay? Another expectation, make sure while we're watching the video, and while we're watching the video, your voices are at 0. When we pause it, obviously again, you guys are going to be allowed to talk amongst your groups for about 30 seconds. Then we'll come back together, and then we'll see who's found the answer. Is everybody tracking on what we're doing?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Hey guys, welcome to History's History. I hope you're ready to get on the train. No, I'm not talking about the peace train. I'm not talking about Crazy Train. I'm talking about the Underground Railroad train. 5 things that every American really should know about the Underground Railroad. Heck, everybody in the world should know about it. So I don't care if you're a kid in school, a lifelong learner, or cray-cray on the internet. We're about to grow your brain 10 times its size as we look at 5 things you should know about the Underground Railroad. All right, guys, giddy up in the line and let's go get it done right now. Number 1, it's not a railroad. I'm going to save you the embarrassment. My goodness, someone out there thought that there was a real Underground Railroad. Really, we're talking about a collective term, the Underground Railroad, which stands for the underground resistance that helped slaves escape into free land in the North and then Canada from around 1800 to 1860. And they certainly used railroad terms. So, for instance, stockholders of the Underground Railroad were benefactors, people who gave money. Lots of times, these were the white abolitionists. We have conductors, people that led people along the path, but we're only talking about 10 to 20 miles. It's not one trip. It's really kind of a group of independent, smaller groups that are organizing this, using safe houses, different means of transportation, which for the most part are on foot. They're not getting on a train, maybe a lucky one here or there did. Sometimes by wagon, a few slaves at a time, but again, short distances, and really then taking hideout during the day. You had to travel at night. So barns and caves, hiding under church floors, anything that you could do. Now there were abductors, we'll talk about Harriet Tubman in a little while, but for the most part, slaves in a sense had to escape on their own. No one was going to come save them. But if they could make it to the border, that's really where the Underground Railroad kicked in. You had to get a ticket in a sense. That's the idea of the passengers of the train. There were stations and station conductors along the way. There's no railroad. It's not like, look at the tracks of the Underground Railroad. All right, guys, so number 1, it's not a railroad for real. It is a underground resistance. I do not know why I have a French accent. All right, let's look at number 2.
Okay, what was the Underground Railroad? Talk about it amongst your groups for about 30 seconds. Go!
Again, Underground Railroad was an underground resistance used to transport slaves to the North.
What do we got, guys? What do we got going? What do we got going? It's a resistance. There we go. There we go. We should be writing this down while we're talking to. Okay, coming back together, coming back together. What is it? What is it? This group here. It was an underground resistance that transported slaves to the north. It was not a train. No. How did it work? How did he describe it? How is it working? Yes, Crowder. It was an underground resistance. So yes, George.
There was likely different groups of people, and they would lead them like by wagon or on foot through different areas.
Exactly. You would have like one person, there would be a house, and you'd bring a person fleeing from slavery to that house, and you have one person come, and they'd be like, okay, we're going to walk now. We're going to walk you to the next spot. I'm going to walk you 20 miles this way to the next house, or the church, or the steeple. We're going to keep you here for a second until it's safe, right? We're probably going to travel in the dark. Then we're going to get up, and okay, we're going to walk again. We're going to walk again. We're going 30 miles this time. We're going 30 miles this time. Okay, now we're going to stop. We're by a boathouse. This person's a friend, okay? Now we're at the boathouse. And And now we're gonna take a boat. Now we're gonna take a boat maybe down the river for 20 miles, and then we're gonna stop again. And that's how it worked. He went from spot to spot to spot to spot. It wasn't fast, it was very slow, and it was very dangerous. We're gonna learn a little bit more about it. Everybody should have that though. Everybody should have the basics written down for question 4. What was the Underground Railroad? It was not a train, it was an underground resistance that helped transport slaves from the south to the north in Canada to freedom. All right, let's keep going.
Number 2, the Underground Railroad was run by white abolitionists. And now certainly there are white abolitionists, people involved in the cause. There are stockholders in a sense like William Lloyd Garrison. And we have radicals like John Brown who are also aiding in the Underground Railroad. And then you have actual conductors on the ground like Levi and Catherine Coffin, 2 Quakers, a couple that helped hundreds of slaves escape. But that was really the exception. If you really want to give credit to the people who ran the Underground Railroad, number 1, give credit to the slaves themselves. Nobody was rescuing them. They had to figure out for themselves how to get out of there. So they were their own heroes for the most part. It's also important to credit African American churches. These are really the warriors on the ground that are providing safe passage all the way up through the north into my hometown, Buffalo, New York, and then across to Niagara Falls. So across the land, there's not one group, but there are many groups led by many different people helping people get to freedom. And then certainly you had a large free black community that was aiding in this on the ground. You had William Still out of Philadelphia who led hundreds of slaves through Philadelphia and into northern free lands in Canada. He was also called the father of the Underground Railroad. He wrote the book after the Civil War, The Underground Railroad, Authentic Narratives and First-Hand Accounts, which has really become the historical Bible in a sense of figuring out what this Underground Railroad was. And then you have slaves themselves, slaves who escaped and they were like, that was awful, I'm going back. That's Harriet Tubman, right? Harriet Tubman for 10 years led over 300 slaves to their freedom. She was said to carry a gun, and if anybody wanted to go back, it was like, you're either gonna die or be free. You better choose now. And she never lost a passenger on the Underground Railroad. She went back 19 times. Go back 19 times. Harriet Tubman, of course, will go on in the Civil War to become a spy for the Union Army. This is a pretty gangster lady. So again, we're going to re-emphasize, there are white abolitionists. Certainly there are. And some on the ground that are risking their lives. But if you're talking about who ran the Underground Railroad, first of all, the answer is really nobody. But the largest chunk, the largest majority of people involved are slaves and free blacks themselves. I'm glad that we cleared that up. We said, look at number 3 now.
All right, question 5. Who were primarily involved in operating the Underground Railroad? Let me hear from this group. Oh, yes, that is freed enslaved peoples. Yes, that was half of it, and then somebody else said the other half. Yes, ma'am. George.
I put escaped slaves and freed African Americans.
That is correct. It was those 3 individuals. Yes, ma'am.
African American churches, William Still, Harriet Tubman, and the Quakers.
Excellent. Excellent. Tyler. Abolitionists. Yes. All those people combined together. White abolitionists, free African Americans who have been living in the North for some time, they had never been enslaved, enslaved peoples who had escaped from the South, black churches, well, that was a huge thing. They played a huge role. They were big stops along the way of the Underground Railroad. All those people played a role, but the